Why is everyone leaving British Columbia? That's not a rhetorical question. That's actually what's happening right now. British Columbia lost 41,000 people in 2025. For the first time, this province has shrunk in 151 years. And while everyone's focused on the headline numbers, almost nobody's talking about what it's doing to the real estate prices, rental market, and the biggest buying window this city has seen in over a decade. That's what this video is about. I'm Ruzi Najafi with the TK Group, a realtor here based in Greater Vancouver. What I try to do on this channel is connect the dots the headlines leave unconnected, because the biggest decision you make with real estate are too important to base on noise. Today, I'm breaking down exactly why people are leaving, what it's doing to the rental market, what it's doing to the ownership market, and where the actual opportunity sits right now for buyers, sellers, and landlords. And if you want to apply any of this to your specific situation, the link to book a call with me is in the description below. Let's get into it. Here's what we're going to cover. First, the two-part story behind BC's population decline and why understanding both sides matter. Second, what it's done to the rental market and why the numbers are at levels this city hasn't seen since 1988. And third, how all of it connects to the ownership market and what it means if you're buying, selling, or holding a rental property right now. So let's start with why people are actually leaving British Columbia, because most coverage is only telling you half the story. The first half is federal. Ottawa made deliberate decision to cut non-permanent resident international students, temporary foreign workers, and recent arrivals who hadn't yet settled. BC got hit harder than almost anywhere else in the country. On a net basis, 461,000 temporary residents left Canada in 2025. BC and Ontario drove out most of the outflow. Both provinces ended the year roughly 0.7% down in population. Alberta, meanwhile, grew. That's the Ottawa story, and it's real. But the second story is one BC built for itself. The Business Council of British Columbia reported the province's largest interprovincial outflow ever recorded. Nearly 70,000 British Columbians packed up and moved to other provinces in a single year, most of them to Alberta. And this wasn't a one-off. Alberta has been the top net destination for interprovincial migrants in Canada 3 years running. The reason is not complicated. Housing cost of living, and economic opportunities. People are doing the math, and the math is sending them east. So you've got Ottawa pulling renters out from the above and affordability pushing long-term residents out from below. And both of those forces are hitting Metro Vancouver harder than anywhere else. The result is BC shed over 41,000 people in 2025 on net. Statistics Canada's record go back to the 1940s. Canada has never recorded an annual population decline. Not during recessions, not during wartime, not during the pandemic. For the first time in the history of modern record keeping, and for BC specifically, the first time since 1874. Now here's where this connects directly to real estate, and this is the part most people haven't put together yet. Let's start with the rental market, because the numbers are genuinely shocking if you know what Vancouver has looked like for the last 25 years. Metro Vancouver's vacancy rate has been below 1% for most of the last quarter century. Sub 1% wasn't a crisis here, it's just the weather. It was 1.6% in 2024 and below 1% the 2 years prior to that. Then CMHC released their 2025 rental market report, and the vacancy rate came in at 3.7%, the highest since 1988. In a single year, it more than doubled. Two things hit from opposite directions at the exact same time. On the supply side, nearly 11,000 new proposed build rental units completed in Metro Vancouver in 2025 alone. Projects that broke ground 3, 4, even 5 years ago when the market looked completely different, landing now whether the market wants them or not. On the demand side, the non-permanent residents who drove most of the rental demand for the past decade are gone. Students, temporary workers, new arrivals, almost exclusively renters. When the population left, the rental pool left with them. Record supplies meeting collapsing demand. The result is average asking rent in Vancouver now down 9.2% year over year. Landlords offering 1 month free, 2 months free, signing bonuses, and upgraded packages. Things that would have sounded like a fiction in this city 3 years ago, when those same landlords had wait lists and people were sleeping in their cars just to stay in the city. Now here's the piece I want you to pay close attention to, because this is where the rental story crosses into the ownership market. Think about who has been buying in Metro Vancouver for the last 2 decades. Two groups carried a massive share of demand. Investors who bought small condos and pre-sales because the rental math worked, near zero vacancy, rising rising rents, reliable demand. And burnt out renters who jumped into ownership not necessarily because they were ready, but because competing for a unit in a sub 1% vacancy market was destroying them and buying felt like the only exit. Both of those groups have stepped back now at the exact same time. Investors can't make the numbers work when vacancy is at a 37-year high and rents are fallen 9% year over year. And renters who used to feel trapped now have options. Nobody makes a fear-driven leap into ownership when a landlord is texting them about signing bonuses. Two of the biggest buyer pools in this region went quiet simultaneously, and it's showing up directly in the data. Fraser Valley active listings are sitting 50% above the 10-year seasonal average right now. The sales to active listing ratio sitting at 11%, just below the 12% threshold where downward price pressure typically sets in on a sustained basis. Greater Vancouver is running 38% above the 10-year listing average, with sales at their absolute lowest place in over 2 decades. On price, the Fraser Valley benchmark is telling the story clearly. Detached homes are down 8.7% year over year, townhouses 7.3%, and condos 9.2%. Now, I want to address the thing most buyers are doing right now, which is waiting for the bottom. I understand the logic completely. Wait until the market clearly turns, then move. Here's the problem. Nobody sees the bottom on the way down. You only recognize it in the rear view mirror. The people who looked back at 2009 wishing they had bought weren't sitting in certainty at the time. They were sitting in the exact same uncertainty you're in now. What you can actually see in real time is the setup. Sellers losing leverage on 3 different fronts simultaneously. Fewer investors, fewer burnt out renters, and inventory sitting well above the historical norms. Rates down, prices down. If the mortgage math works for you today and you're planning to hold for 5 to 7 years, you're buying into softness before the long-term tailwind in this city eventually turns. And they will turn. This is still Metro Vancouver. Now, if you're currently holding a rental property, do one thing before anything else. Run your actual numbers. Not what your tenant is paying, not what your neighbor got in 2022. What the unit would realistically rent for if it were vacant tomorrow in today's market, with the unit next door offering a month free. Then check your mortgage renewal date. A lot of landlords locked in under 2% during the pandemic, and those renewals are hitting now into a completely different rate environment. Falling rents plus a higher mortgage payment is a math problem that moves real quick. Don't walk into it blind. The population story, the rental story, and the ownership market story in BC right now are all the same story. Policy created supply surge and a demand collapse hitting at the same time. The market is adjusting, and the buyers who understand what's actually happening, not what the headline says happening, are the ones who are going to look back at this period as the window they moved through instead of the one they watched close. If you want to figure out what this means for your specific situation, book a call with me. The link is in the description. Stay sharp and see you guys in the next video.